So first things first, gotta let all the air out of the shock chamber and take a note of what you had in there. Just mark that down so you have for a record once you go back to air it up. Once you do that, you're going to need a 6mm Allen head wrench. Take that bolt out. For the top side of the shock, I believe that's a 5mm Allen head wrench. Pretty easy to get these off. These bolts are not that tight, so make a note that when you go back to screw this on, do not over tighten them. Once you take that off, the air can just unscrews like a kind of like a bottle cap, and then it should pop off pretty easily. Kind of skipped that part, I didn't record it, but you can see right there how dirty the air can was. When you look inside, you can see that's the oil that came out. It's pretty black and yucky looking. Next thing you want to do is get a lint-free rag, wipe down the shock, get all that oil and debris off of it, off of the damper. Just kind of clean it up with just a dry lint-free towel. I actually just use like a kitchen towel, which is still pretty good. And here you can see all the oil coming off on it. Once again, the air can, you can see how dirty it is, all the muck and gunk in there. Get in there really good with your napkin. Make sure that all the little crevices are really cleaned out. So I just keep going back and forth here to make sure I got everything, all the little creases on the top side of the can and the bottom side of the can. And once you do that, it should be good to go to kind of really start the procedure. At this point, we are ready to remove the dust wiper sleeve and the seals inside the can. Dust wiper sleeve, just pull right off. You don't really need a tool for that. For the seal inside the can, I chose a wooden skewer pick to see if that would get it off. I really wanted to be careful not to scratch the metal inside the can, so I decided to try this at first, which the pick kept breaking because the seals are pretty packed in there. You've got a white plastic seal, then a rubber seal, and then another white plastic seal, so it's really crushed in there. That didn't work, so I decided to grab this little metal pick. It's actually a dental pick that I got from a dentist a long time ago. It comes in handy, but I actually ended up breaking the end of this pick trying to get this out because it hooked into the seal, but it wasn't strong enough to actually pry the seal out. So finally, oh, actually I did get the rubber seal out with that, which is fine. Kind of just dug into the rubber a little bit to pull it out, but there's no way this metal pick was going to get these plastic seals out. It wouldn't dig into the seal to pull it outward. So I went back to the wooden pick to try that, and once again it did not work. So I decided to go with a metal screwdriver, flathead. I was a little nervous about this, but I was really careful not to scratch the inside of this can. So once I got this in here, it was fairly easy to get these little white plastic seals out. They're pretty hard plastic, so you gotta put some force to get them out of there, and it's a really tight fit. So this did the job, and I was able to get them out with no issue. So note for next time, use something metal and something that's harder than a plastic or a wooden pick. At this point, I got some rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and just doused it on a napkin, wiped down the can really good at this point. So I've already removed the debris. This time I was just removing any extra grit and oil that was in the can, just that was dirty. Make sure it's nice and clean. Once again, get into the crevices. Now I'm ready to install these plastic seals and the rubber seal. First one, take the first plastic seal, kind of bend it into a potato shape, like imagine like you're making it look like a Pringles chip, and just kind of wedge it in there. First one is really easy to get in because you've got some room to work with. Next thing is the rubber seal. First I took some Fox Floats fluid that came with the seal kit, and just put a couple drops on the seal, wiped it down, made sure it was lubricated. To put it inside the air can. You want it to be a little bit lubricated, not dry, because you want it to sit properly in there and be able to move around when you're installing the other plastic seal that goes on top of it. So getting that in is fairly easy. Once again, make it into like a little Pringles potato chip wedge. Stuff it in there, and it should go in without an issue. At this point, was having a little bit of issue putting it in, but it's my first time to do this. After realizing what I was doing wrong, you just gotta really bend that seal to get it in there. And once it's seated, just kind of like work your arm around it, hand around it to get it in all the way. I kept dropping it all the way through the can, so I had to keep grabbing it on the other side and put it in. Now this second plastic washer that goes on top of the rubber seal, this was a pain in the butt to get in because there's no room in the can spacing at this point to get it in. So what I did, I wedged it in and slowly but surely got it in there as I worked my finger around the diameter. So it wasn't as hard as I thought after I tried it like twice. So I didn't record that part, but you just kind of finesse it in there. At this point, you can put the dust wiper seal on there. You don't need any tools for this. It just pops right in into the little crevice that's remaining on the top end of or I guess the bottom end of the air can. And yeah, just no need to put any fork fluid on there. You'll have to do that later on. Now it was time to replace the seals on the actual damper. Getting the seals off really easy. I didn't record it actually, but you pretty much just depress the seal, and then take off the two white O-rings that go on there. So at this point I'm actually putting the new damper seal on there. I think I put a little bit of Fox fluid, and now I'm going to go back and put these little cutout rings. They kind of fold on top of each other, so when you're putting them in, make sure the fold pieces are fitting the right way. First time I put this on, I didn't put the seal, I guess the fork seal, I keep saying fork seal. I didn't put the O-ring folding on top the right way, so I just had to kind of pull it back and then make sure they were sitting on top of each other properly. Once you get the part, you'll actually understand what I'm saying. I didn't zoom in on it, unfortunately. But yeah, this is a really easy part of the process, so I wouldn't stress too much about this. So now I'm pretty much at this point ready to put the air can back on. Procedures say to kind of douse the seals in the fork end for the can bottom with Fox float fluid, and now for the whole shock assembly, put some more fork fluid on there. You notice that red rubber grommet there? That's actually a negative air chamber spacer. It came with two, and I decided just to put one back on because I felt as though, at this point I can kind of play with the specs on the fork. A lot of times these shocks don't come with these negative air chamber spacers, so I thought, why not play with it and see, for my riding style, and see how it changes the ride. Specialized obviously had to input it on this fork, when it was built. I'll see how it goes. I was a little nervous about taking it off, but yeah, it felt fine on the initial ride. So at this point, I'm ready to put some float fluid in the can. It's basically 2 cc's or 2 milliliters of the float fluid. So I just, I've already used a little bit of the fluid. So I figured I'd just put half the remainder of what's in the inside of the little tube that was provided in the seal kit. Once I get this in there, you gotta depress the fork. I keep saying fork. Sorry. You have to depress the shock to get the can back on. I'm struggling right now because I forgot to open the shock all the way. So what you have to do is set the compression to open, fully open, and also set the rebound to the slowest setting. So figure out how many clicks you are from where you have to set it to slow. So I had 5 clicks to go all the way to slow. That way I can set it back to where I need it to be for my suspension setting. And then, yeah, make sure you set the compression to fully open. So what I actually did wrong here too, when I put the can on, I didn't fully close it over the seal so it can go over the damper seal. So I actually had to go back and add more fluid to it just to make sure it was working right and it had enough fluid in. So now I'm about ready to put the air can on. And once again, I'm still struggling because I don't realize at this point that I didn't have the compression open all the way. So yeah, make sure you do that. It'll make your life so much easier. You can squeeze it on there, you can manhandle it, but you want the shock to be open all the way. That way the shock compresses fully and you can get the can on without an issue. So I decided to go put it on the floor and do it. It's just slowly struggling. It's first time to do this, so it was definitely a learning experience. And hopefully people listening to this, you can learn from my mistakes. So after making a huge mess of getting the air can back on, I had to wipe off all the extra oil that I dumped on there. I actually ended up taking this thing back apart and putting more oil in because I felt like I got at least 1 cc or milliliter of fluid that fell out of this thing. My hand was doused in float fluid. But yeah, I'm just making sure at this point to make sure the can's hand tight. You want to over tighten it once again. And once you do that, you can kind of just put the shock back on. It's ready to go, and kind of check your settings. Make sure it feels good, and if not, take it back off, and you can kind of re-inspect it or add the seals back if you need to. Hopefully that was helpful, and see you guys in the next one.